not original in the slightest. Like all of you, I watched the Fallout TV show, and it made me want to play Fallout. Luckily, Bethesda timed their next-gen patch for Series X and PlayStation 5 to capitalize on this hype. Also, by the way, are we still calling the PS5 and Series X next-gen? Anyway, so I got the patch for PlayStation 5, booted it up, and thought to myself, why don't I try this out on that survival mode I've been hearing so much about? Survival mode, or survival difficulty, was added to Fallout 4 several months after its initial release. It replaced the original survival difficulty, renaming that mode to very hard, and changed elements beyond making enemies just harder to fight. It's difficult. Very difficult, and it's not the mode I would recommend first-timers to try out. But if you're a Fallout 4 veteran like myself who's played through the game several times, then it might be that fresh experience you needed to get addicted to Fallout 4 all over again. First, let's go over exactly how survival mode changes the game. First and foremost, it's tough. In combat, the player character has an increased damage output of 150%. Of course, this is offset by increased enemy damage of 200%. Enemies will drop quickly if you're able to get the jump on them, but in no time at all, they'll drain your health and cripple you in return. Healing also takes a huge nerf. Stim packs, food, and drinks will still heal you, but incredibly slowly. Also, only certain food or drinks. Be sure to check which ones actually recover HP, but chugging 17 boxes of Blamco mac and cheese just ain't gonna cut it. So stim packs become a huge commodity, especially because if your partner goes down, they'll need a stim pack to get back up. Aside from your health, you'll also need to look out for your well-being. Thirst, hunger, exhaustion, and illness all come into play in survival mode. Being thirsty or hungry lowers your AP, which means less stamina for sprinting and fewer points to use in VATS. This shouldn't be a problem though, right? Every time you're hungry or thirsty and you're out of items, you could just fast travel back to one of your bases to resupply. Right? Right? Nope. In survival mode, there is absolutely zero fast travel, even if you build a fast travel marker at the base. So get your comfy shoes on because you're going to be running everywhere. Well, that's fine because just like in any other Bethesda game, you should have enough carrying capacity to lug around all the food, water, and chems you'll need at all times. Ha! Think again. Ammo. You know the thing you need a lot of? It has weight now, so not only are you fighting some of the toughest battles you've ever faced in Fallout 4, but you're doing it with limited weapons and constantly battling becoming too hungry, tired, or thirsty. Also, if you're over-encumbered for too long, you'll start to take periodic damage. Fun! And finally, what's quite possibly the biggest hindrance in survival, the thing that makes everything I've previously mentioned just all the more stressful, is that quick and manual saving is completely disabled. The only way to save your progress in survival is by finding a bed to sleep in for at least an hour. And yes, every time you die, your most recently slept in bed is the one you'll respawn in, and the game will have undone everything you've accomplished in the time since you've slept. It saves nothing. But to answer my headline question, should you play in survival mode? Well, if everything I just mentioned sounds like a challenge you'd like to take on, then absolutely. As I said, I've personally completed Fallout 4 several times, so to replay it right now in anything other than survival mode means just making my way through the story again. But playing in survival mode has changed the way I view this game. I'm sneaking more than I ever have, making sure I have the jump on enemies before they spot me, or I'm avoiding them altogether. Looting becomes incredibly fun because you never know if you're going to find something that completely improves your current situation. Finding a stim pack tucked in a dresser of a random house goes from, oh neat, a stim pack, to, oh thank heavens, a stim pack. Survival mode is the purest form of Fallout one could ask for, and it's the closest you'll get to actually feeling like you're the sole surviving vault dweller in a dangerous and unforgiving world, and it's so much fun. Here's my suggestion. Give it a try. Start a new game and play through until the Deathclaw encounter in Concord. This is more than enough time to give you a feel for whether or not this game mode is for you, and if it's not, lower the difficulty down to something more manageable and continue your journey. Okay, now that you've made the brave choice to dive into survival mode, it's time to start playing like a survivor. Luckily, I've played enough of this mode so far to offer some tips to make your new, daunting adventure just a tad more manageable. As I mentioned, sleeping in a bed is the only way to save your game, and you should do it as often as you can. There are no checkpoints or autosaves or anything, and I mean it. Any loadouts you build, items you loot, level up points spent, it's all gone if you die, so you'll always be on the lookout for a place to lay your head. Because there is no fast travel, however, the bed you find might not always be the greatest. For one, a chair or a couch just won't do it. It needs to be a sleeping bag or mattress on the ground or a traditional bed on a frame. The difference there is, if you sleep on a sleeping bag or mattress on the ground, it'll save your game, yes, but it won't contribute to reducing your overall tiredness. You need to be able to sleep at least 8 hours to cure your exhaustion. Also, every time you nap on the ground, there is a chance you'll wake up with an illness. Don't let this stop you though. When you're out in the wild, sleeping for an hour to save your game is still worth the sickness gamble. That way you don't lose your progress. You'll find beds in houses, usually on the top floor, or sometimes even in combat locations. If you need to pass the time out in the world, you can sit without risking infection, although depending on how much time you let pass, you might stand up feeling awfully tired, hungry, and thirsty. Just like in normal Fallout 4 difficulties, it's always the best practice to never carry more than you need. It's just compounded in survival mode. A great practice is to be mindful of the enemy you're currently encountering. If you're clearing out a factory filled with raiders, then a pipe pistol is a good weapon to bring, as the raiders will drop pipe pistol ammo, so you'll always be replenishing, saving you from having to carry a full loadout. You'll also need to be mindful about what you pick up. While it's tempting to pick up every piece of junk or strip every raider down to their undies, it just won't fly in survival. Be aware that your partner can carry stuff, so you can have them lighten the load for you. Or, if you prefer to run solo, grab the Lone Wanderer perk to carry 50 additional weight. More on that in a bit. Also, be mindful that you'll always need to be stocked up on stim packs, but stim packs dehydrate you, so you'll need to balance that out with keeping water around as well. In the base Fallout 4 experience, settlements felt optional. In survival mode, they're essential. The water pump alone is a welcome sight when you're limping back to camp while dying of thirst. You'll also have access to clean beds, you can unload all of your junk, and you'll be able to cook and plant crops, which are essential to keeping you stocked up on food. Given that there are settlements strewn throughout the Commonwealth, it's important to take time to at least build the necessities at each location to get your character back into shape after exploring. This one is simple, but you need to take your time in combat. You're not rushing out into the open and just destroying everyone in sight anymore. It's honestly only a few bullets or whacks to the skull before you're dead, so you have to approach things carefully. That might mean chipping away at a deathclaw while it's distracted by raiders, or starting an encounter at sniping distance. Also, don't be silly and loot in combat. Their loot is essential, you need to search them. So, in the heat of battle, I found myself counting slain enemies and then making sure I find each corpse before I leave the area. The final thing about combat. At some point, a grenade is going to explode at the wrong time, an enemy is going to pin you, or you're just going to walk into a room filled with mines and you're going to die. But enemy placement is semi-static. So, if you're making your way through an area and you die, then you should be able to approach that situation again with a bit more knowledge of what will happen during the fight. One of my biggest tips would be, I would consider going solo.
I think we ought to go our separate ways.
Having a teammate watching your back in the Commonwealth is an experience many of us enjoy, but there is a strong case to be made for going at it alone. Sure, it's nice to have someone draw the fire away from you and carry some of the junk you've acquired, but their usefulness is sometimes offset by them just getting in the way. Enemies will often spot them and blow your cover, and they'll constantly die and need to be revived, depleting your precious stim pack supply. Instead, consider grabbing the Lone Wanderer perk, like I mentioned earlier. This charisma perk, even at rank 1, will reduce enemy damage by 15% and increase your total carry weight by 50%. As you level, ranking up the perk will just further increase those benefits. Sure, it'll get lonely out there, but having full control of the battlefield and only needing to worry about yourself may be the best way to play things. Just like beds and settlements, you'll want to be mindful of where doctors are located in the Commonwealth. The first one you'll likely meet is in Diamond City, and he'll cure your illness, ailments, and rads for a few caps, which is nice because neither stim packs nor sleeping will cure your diseases, only doctors or antibiotics, which are pretty rare.
That's gonna need to be set back in place. Let's get started.
You can also look into establishing a clinic or other various medical stands at your settlement once you've leveled up enough. Finally, there is a world where you decide the survival isn't for you even after giving it a shot. Trust me, I've felt that way quite a few times during my journey, and I'm nowhere near beating the game. If you decide this mode isn't for you, you can always go into the gameplay options and lower the difficulty. You can then continue your journey with this character without all the trappings of survival mode. However, this is a one-time opt-out. Lowering the difficulty creates a whole new save for that character, and you will never be able to enter survival mode on this new save ever again. You can luckily reload your survival mode save and continue back where you decided to give up, but you can't lower the difficulty, get through a tough encounter, and then re-enable survival mode. Once it's off, for that save, it's off forever. And that is everything you need to know about survival mode and some tips to help you get through it. For more Fallout 4 help, make sure to head on over to our wiki on IGN.com and watch our videos to see what you should be doing first in the game and the things the game doesn't tell you. Also, please let me know in the comments if you're currently playing through survival mode, if you've never tried it, or if you've tried it and gave up. There's no shame in giving up, trust me. I might, eventually. It's really, really hard. Anyways, for more in the world of Fallout, make sure to stick with IGN.